everything will sort itself out.
I don't know.
Yes, it will. Don't worry.
The Father is a story about a man who is slowly having his possessions stolen from him. He's losing his house, the ones he loves, and he's having to deal with a vindictive daughter who wants to cook up a scheme to take everything from him. In fact, she wants him to perish in some kind of home, that she might inherit his life's achievements as a successful dancer, a circus man, a magician, an intellectual. But most importantly, she's subverting his position as a proud, passionate father. As the story goes on, he discovers many details that give strong implications for who is the culprit, but more and more events get harder and harder to explain. Places seem to change, people claim they have different names, different histories, and they lie about where they've been or who they are with. As the story continues, more and more is lost until the very flat he's in becomes something quite different. His knowledge and understanding of everything around him is crumbling, and eventually he's not sure of himself. He is torn down to his childhood memories, the oldest and strongest parts of him, all that he can hang on to. Nothing of the surface or even the majority of his years remain. He doesn't know what's happening. Because The Father is about the passing of a patriarch, the family dynamic experiencing a significant change, the world going from something of a reliable shelter to a dangerous, shifting entity, but most importantly, it's about a disease, one that takes from you your power, your control, and your dignity. But perhaps most disturbingly, it takes the very manner in which you engage with and enjoy life, a disease that exponentially preys upon you and your loved ones until there is nothing left but a reluctantly idealized sentiment. The love and connection one shares for another, the aspects that make them who they are, will naturally be questioned at the core when those very traits are no longer seen or heard. But the memories of that love persist in the sight of that person alone. This story starts with a man named Anthony sitting in his study, listening to his music, having to try and explain to his daughter, Anne, why he doesn't need a carer and that the carer stole his watch. He moves on to be very definitive about the progression of events Anne wasn't present for, despite admitting he's lost certain details.
Where did you leave it?
I don't know and I don't remember. All I know is it's nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. I can't find it. There's your proof. That girl stole my watch.
She told me you'd called her a little bitch. I don't know what else.
I don't remember.
As time moves on, he discovers his flat is not his own. It belongs to his daughter, and she lives with her husband. Only his daughter is moving to Paris because she's met another man. She hasn't been married for 5 years. Moving forward, it becomes clear that Anthony cannot stay here if he cannot live with a carer, and so he must move to a home. As minutes go by, his flat isn't his or his daughter's, it's a care home for those who cannot look after themselves. The story ends with trees brushing through the wind. This film attempts to capture the experience of those with diseases that focus on memory capacity, motor functions, abstract thinking, and emotional disturbance. It also explores the effects by proxy to loved ones that attempt to support their family members through the experience, and those who are less sympathetic. These characters are captured with respect and immense talent by both Anthony and Anne, played by the absolute Welsh legend Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman, a woman who has more than proven herself an incredible dramatic actress. The first thing we should talk about is the flat. It changes throughout the story, including but not limited to the entrance. Anthony visits the doctor's office and it appears identical to the approach of his flat. The furniture arrangement in the hallway is always changing, representing different eras or preferences despite each shot being so close in the story, to the point that Anthony eventually manages to see it himself.
Have you noticed something?
What about?
My flat.
What about it?
Well, it's changed.
His office, a place to enjoy his music in peace, becomes Anne's office as time goes by, only to perhaps be his again. We know these rooms cannot coexist, and so you have to account for this some other way. This applies to the kitchen. The first one we see resembles the next, but there are unmistakable differences. The living room will alternate its furniture, many decorative pieces will come and go, drinks, paintings, even chess cannot be relied upon, nor the plants at the window. The walls of his flat change colors quite regularly, from different shades of beige to dark greens to a selection of yellows or ochre, to be more specific, with a stark change to some blues, until lighter blues and a hospital bluish white. Evidence that his perspective of many locations mesh over time. His bedroom, made consistent by the very bed he sleeps on, changes as the scenes progress, implying an ever-changing location, despite consistent elements within the room allowing his mind a chance to accommodate it as foundational, a comforting respite in which to put down his head. His clothing, when placed in a more chronological sense, begins with a suit and tie upon a strong stature. It then moves to an outfit lacking a tie, trading out for a cardigan, perhaps a jumper, then a robe atop his pajamas, only to lose that as well, spending the remainder of the story in clothing we often associate with children until the end, when he is seen in a blank t-shirt. And all of this despite his desire to change his clothing and become more presentable. Hopkins captures the very essence of these transitions as his life is more and more burdened by the disease itself. We see him walk confidently only to shuffle with a strong sense of unease. He slurs and stammers, and he struggles to recollect and connect the information he's receiving with what he knows to be true, along with, of course, a complete surrender when he is met with abuse. An incredible breadth of the behaviors seen with those who suffer with these debilitating diseases are captured, with many subtleties throughout.
Suits me fine. Suits me fine. Hello. Good chicken. Did you think, where did you buy it?
Downstairs, why?
Oh, no reason. No. Tell me, have you noticed, but haven't we met before?
No, I don't think so.
Do you understand?
Yes, I'll bear that in mind.
Good. Thank you.
Your attitude.
Stop that! I won't allow this.
Suppose I do it again. Then what will you do?
I'm going to have to.
To what? To what?
His memory being in contention leads us to try and understand how the story unfolds. He does seem to own the flat. Sometimes.
I'm not leaving my flat!
This isn't your flat, Anthony.
You're living with your daughter at the moment, is that right?
Yes, until she goes to live in Paris. It's my flat, isn't it? This is incredible. You burst in on me as if I have no idea who she is, this woman.
From what we can tell, each of the events, characters, and information should be recognized by Anthony. He simply doesn't because his memory is failing him. However, we don't because we are meeting these people for the first time.
Who are you?
Sorry?
What are you doing in my flat?
Anthony, it's me, Paul.
This is especially effective when Anne is the consistent rock in the beginning, but even her face is unrecognizable. The audience might wonder who is doing this to Anthony.
Anne, where is she?
I'm here.
Again, Hopkins can capture that confusion while attempting to remain strong in the face of other people questioning his sanity. With how montage works in film, we expect some time has passed when seeing wide or establishing shots. Typically, we do not when the angle changes or even transitions to other rooms. Yet the content plays with this assumption. When watching Anthony leave the breakfast table as he struggles to understand the carer his daughter has brought to him, we see what we understand to be his daughter opening that door he just closed. Once she reaches him to presumably talk about that event, the dialogue and the angles are purposefully obscured to give us the impression of linearity, when we have in fact jumped forward as much as months.
Can I talk to you?
It should be said that this is how Anthony might be experiencing this moment. He remembers his carer, his daughter, being left to his own devices in his bedroom, but now his daughter is informing him that he is to be abandoned in a care home. This is because of the gaps in his memory, and it wouldn't be the first time he is told, but that's how he feels, and there's nothing anyone can do about that. It's nobody's fault.
I'll come back and see you occasional weekends.
What about me?
This, in many films, operates on many layers, but the one I'm trying to highlight here is that of Anthony's state of mind. People will walk in and out of rooms, changing their faces and their expectations. Object permanence is no longer a guarantee, despite being one of the first things we learn. Paul is introduced to Anthony as a brand new entity, despite disappearing only moments later, having not set foot here for as much as 5 years. This increases Anthony's distrust of other people while making him unwilling for anyone to leave his sight. We, as the audience, only learn about Anthony's history. We don't know what is or isn't out of place. At first, we gain an understanding of what's absolutely out of place almost exclusively from how he behaves and reacts to information, only to discover that he is entirely unreliable, despite his protest. In his world, change is constant, and that realization is part of how Anthony manages to reach his final moment of lucidity. A tragedy, only it's not so bad because he won't remember soon enough. As the story progresses and more of his mind is torn away, it would seem he is becoming more aware of it. I think it may be as simple as us seeing him recant the memories he has, as best he can, with a mind that cannot place any particular thing in any coherent order, until he reaches the morning that allows him the knowledge that he's lost everything. If taken in a linear fashion, it's only after Lauren tells him about his other daughter's accident that he wakes to the sound of his daughter calling for her father. He then ventures out into the flat to find the door we never see opened, taking him to a hospital. A hospital with nothing particular about it except a strong look at the visitors' lounge, a sign he probably got to know well while waiting for the news. He is then taken to his daughter, and the realization that he has compressed this traumatic memory so far down that it's a room in his flat that he never opens. A part of his mind he almost refuses to acknowledge. Only the residue of that memory leads him to once again open those doors and find it's gone. It's unclear if this event spurred on his disease and has thus been forgotten, or if it's a simultaneous part of his psyche trying to block it out. What is clear is that it fades, along with the painting his daughter created of the little girl that her father remembers and misses to this day, talking about her busy life, knowing she will come back to visit him soon enough. The music felt extremely deliberate when watching this unfold. Anne is shown to be approaching Anthony in the beginning, and we enter on a much more peaceful and engaging sound, only for it to gradually increase intensity, becoming more and more erratic and overbearing as she reaches him. This idea is then repeated, at least in part, as Anthony experiences portions of his own timeline that cannot coexist with others. When he deals with incongruence, he tries to rationalize it as harm or tricks being played, but once they are so absurd that he cannot rationalize them whatsoever, he is stunned. The musical cue comes in.
Anne, where is she?
I'm here.
Doesn't make sense.
Remember me? We met yesterday. We were just starting to get to know one another.
And he starts to come to terms with a different possible reality.
Tell me, Anne, this really is my flat. Isn't it?
The instance I find most engaging is the sound of insanity creeping in and becoming overbearing when he is abused. The realization that he cannot fend for himself while losing any sense of time and place.
You alright? Look, let's eat our chicken, shall we? You like chicken, don't you?
Only for his daughter to come and hold him along with the entrance of the piano in the soundtrack, combating and calming the rest, until a gentle silence.
I thought it was morning. I've only just got
It's the evening, and I've cooked you a chicken. Oh, Dad.
What this shows is that loved ones very much help to stem the crumbling reality around the people suffering from this without needing to have a character explain it to you in no uncertain terms.
I've lived in this flat for some time now. I'm extremely attached to it.
It's obvious that the most valued possession we have is our sense of self. It's not something you necessarily consider because it's a given. However, when it's threatened, everything is threatened. And yet, something as common as a walk in the park or a lover's kiss could end up being the very thing we would lose everything for, because experience is what gives life its meaning.
I'd give everything I own for a glass of whiskey, don't you agree?
But what are those moments if we can't remember them? What is a person without those moments to make them? There is a wonderful attention to detail in this film regarding visual storytelling. The primary issue for Anthony is the shattering of his memories, the loss of them, and the question of what happens next. What is the face of a person you know so well when their mind is gone? When they can't remember you or the time you shared with them? What do you choose to do when what's best for a broken person is to be put away? When the powerful stream of consciousness they once had slows to a reluctant stop? You try to push on and wait until you can reconnect with them, but you have to realize that this cannot continue if it's causing more damage than it's preventing.
I mean, wake up, they don't even speak English. They don't even speak English there. No, listen, they don't even speak English. It's a stupid idea because, they don't even speak English. It's Lucy when she was younger.
Lucy?
Yeah, my other daughter. The one who reminds me of Lucy.
Right.
Right. It is amazing how much you look like Lucy. She really reminded me of your sister.
Yes, you said that yesterday.
New nurse, the one who looks a bit like Lucy, my other daughter.
So apparently she looks like Lucy.
Really?
Well, I don't know. I've never seen her.
He lives in Paris.
Oh,
So I'm going to go and live there.
until she goes to live in Paris.
No, Dad, why do you keep going on about Paris?
What?
I'm staying in London. I'm going to go and live in Paris.
No, you're not. You keep changing your mind. How do you expect people to keep up?
Well, there's never been any question of me living in Paris.
Yes, there was. You told me.
No, I didn't. I told you all about it. Remember?
You said it. Are you sure?
Yes.
She lives in Paris?
She thought about going, but in the end it didn't happen. They all end up leaving sooner or later. I speak from experience.
Dad? Are you up already? Shall I get you some tea before she arrives? Dad? Are you up already? Did you sleep well?
To find another arrangement.
Such as?
Putting him in an institution.
A home.
Yes, a nursing home. Put him in an institution.
A home.
Yes, a nursing home. However good she is, he's ill, man. He's ill. However good she is, he's ill, man. He's ill.
Come on, Dad. Come and sit down. Come on, Dad. Dad, come in and sit down. Dad.
Memory can fade, skip, mesh, and repeat, as shown throughout this film. The CD is a straightforward allegory for Anthony's mind, and his attempt to clean it is parallel to his efforts throughout the film. The comments he makes aren't necessarily a repeat for him.
Otherwise, I'd be sitting here talking to you with no means of knowing what time it was. It's 5 o'clock if you're interested. Myself, I am interested. I have 2 watches. I've always had 2. One on my wrist and the other in my head.
Anthony's watch in this story represents the experience in a more grounded way.
Losing all my things. This goes on much longer. I won't be able to tell what time it is. Please.
As he fails to keep track of his possessions, his watch necessarily eludes him more and more. Without a strong understanding of the environment, the objects within it, and the people we interact with, we struggle to develop a foothold on linearity. And so, with the lack of his watch, his understanding of progression is compromised. As a result, he will blame others. He will assume there is a thief. It cannot be explained by anything else.
When you keep falling out with... What is it about my watch?
He will lash out at people who try to help, because without the watch, everything becomes confusing. That watch is more important than it may seem. As we progress, it becomes more common for him to lose the watch, and his world is crumbling apart. only to lose it once again as he wakes in the care home.
Anne?
The watch is our ability to rationalize and place the passing of time, our ability to recall events in order, and our foundational reference for all things. It's constantly going missing, with people in his life changing names, places, and attitudes. It's impossible to believe that someone isn't doing this to him. Someone must have stolen the watch because he keeps it safe. But that safety is no more secret than anything in his flat. His mind.
How do you know that sometimes that's where I keep my valuables?
I don't know. I found it by accident.
Ooh, you.
And so we spend some time with him believing anyone could be to blame, including his daughter. We then realize it is his own recollection, his own mind that's failing him. The watch isn't reliable any longer, but it will be there for the journey. The father is a very deliberate name for this story. Anthony is a widower, and the father of a loving, caring daughter, as well as another who passed away. He is the head of the household, the patriarch. He is strong, wise, caring, and courageous, while proud, stubborn, paranoid, and unwilling to budge on whether he has lost his faculties. As he is torn apart, these qualities as well as his traits and responsibilities are tested, taken, and relinquished by him until he is reverted to a childhood state. He is no longer capable of maintaining the position he had, one of comfort and control, which unfortunately brings with it an element of shame, and thus frustration.
Ah, is that why you're so keen on this nurse living with me? The rats are leaving the ship. I'm not leaving this flat anytime soon. I'm going to outlive you.
His speech to Anne is shocking. It comes as a result of a man who refuses to allow his station to be reduced, that no matter his current state, he is entitled to what he has earned, to what he perceives his life to be.
I don't need any help from anyone, and I'm not going to leave my flat.
He has an awareness of this villain trying to tear him down, and he will not go quietly.
I shall give a little speech to remind everyone how heartless and manipulative she was.
I'm so sorry about this.
He is energetic, charming, confident, and strong in this scene. A patriarch encapsulates such qualities while not only being capable but excited to share a drink here and there. He clearly had no trouble with it. In fact, he is full of life when having collected his watch.
Just as I thought, time for an aperitif.
It's only a private glance at the mirror that reminds him of his age. Another commonality for this situation is a demand for respect, to not be ignored or treated as less, especially when you are desperate to understand what is happening.
Do you know Anne? Are you a friend of hers? I'm speaking to you!
You can see his pride when reciting his birth date, down to the day.
Date of birth?
Friday, 31st of December, 1937.
Friday.
Yes.
A sure sign his memory is strong, when in reality it's a sign that his core memories, those relating to the earliest points in his life, are intact. Nevertheless, it's comforting for him, and the idea of him remembering it being a surprise can be quite insulting.
She understands perfectly. You're the one who doesn't understand.
He will try again and again to fight whatever narrative he believes is being generated to subvert his position, even pinning the problem accused of him on other people.
My daughter has a tendency to repeat herself. But you know what it's like, it's an age thing. Have you forgotten? She's forgotten. You're starting to suffer from memory loss. I'd have a word with the doctor if I were you.
He laments as time passes that his perspective isn't considered.
All the same, it is extraordinary not even to ask my opinion.
It's more than possible he was considered, and that he simply doesn't remember.
It's true, I'm very intelligent. Sometimes I even surprise myself.
He talks of his achievements as a tap dancer, without remembering it the following day. His time in the circus, his magic talents, his intelligence, his fortitude. It becomes clear he wants to be perceived as the man he once was, or a man he dreams of being. But this disease and the ravages of time have taken that from him. His desperation leads him to make a show of even simply taking his medication.
Are you watching?
Yes.
Watch carefully.
Yes, I'm watching.
Hey, presto! Job is done.
Bravo.
Despite his confidence of living alone, it's obvious that he realizes his own weaknesses. He wants those he recognizes to remain with him.
You're abandoning me. What's going to become of me?
After he's abused, the veil is lifted, not only to those around him, but to himself. He knows he needs help. He knows nothing can be relied upon. And so the carer, Laura, the one that looks like his daughter Lucy, she can look after him, and that can be his life. He is grasping at anything to ground this nightmare. It wouldn't be so bad to live with her after all. It's clear he would even like to make an impression.
I'd be more. What will she think of me? But I've got to be properly dressed.
Only to be told in as many words that simple dignities are no longer afforded to him.
Never mind, you can get dressed later.
No, wait, I'm not even. I must get dressed.
It doesn't matter.
It does matter.
The father is now the one to be cared for. He's not expected to dress properly, and to come down to that position is incredibly hard for anyone that maintained the former, only for him to discover that the carer isn't who he remembered.
And it's not her.
Dad.
This is what he had decided to work with, and it's gone. So, back to his foundation. Part of the loss of your faculties involves a desire to maintain your pride and dignity. The way they handle this subject is quite important.
See, I suspect she wants to put me in a home for yes, I've seen the signs.
It's difficult to be treated consistently when you are not consistent.
Do you know Anne? Are you a friend of hers? I'm speaking to you!
The question here is being ignored or delayed because he should already know the answer.
Your husband! Why are you smiling?
Nothing, I'm sorry.
From Anthony's point of view, he has panicked in seeing a man appear and disappear from his flat while being told it's not his. On top of that, Anne has had no husband in this flat for as much as 5 years. This is earth-shattering to experience, and his daughter is laughing. It's incredibly frustrating. But from her point of view, her father is complaining about the invisible man with the chicken, something that is likely to amuse.
Jolly good. Why are you laughing?
Sorry.
She's laughing because she's enjoying the show, and that imagining him to be some kind of expert tap dancer is ludicrous. This isn't meant to offend, rather it's to read the room and maintain the atmosphere.
Yes. Her unbearable habit of laughing inanely.
Anthony, in this scene, is trying to prove he doesn't need to be babied, and the person he is presenting the proof to is laughing at him. The intention is often misunderstood on both ends, all because of this disease. He will even speak as though he understands the situation despite being completely lost in order to avoid coming across as though he has forgotten important information.
Coming up for 10 years?
Ah, yes, obviously.
Anne.
Anne?
Yes, Anne.
Yeah. So, James. Paul. Right, Paul, we have guests this evening?
No, why?
Oh, nothing.
This is nobody's fault.
She can get an idea of how you live and to what extent she might be able to help you.
I know that. You've already told me 100 times.
He says this to assure both Lauren and Anne that he is coherent and can speak as they do. He remembers why she is here. Only moments later, he says this.
What do you do for a living?
I look after other people.
Other people?
If he is as limited as to forget key information during conversations, then you will naturally want to help him recover while maintaining the mood of the room. Nothing represents this more thoroughly in my eyes than this moment.
Laura, your new carer, the one you like.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is something everyone has to go through with children as well as those with reduced faculties. Anne doesn't know whether Anthony has remembered the woman he met the prior day, nor what he was reminded of. So, she wants to bring that past to the present, before Laura arrives. That means she needs to tell him what he thought without giving away that he's completely forgotten it. This while maintaining a positive tone despite the horrors sifting beneath.
We should get you dressed before she arrives, don't you think?
Who?
Laura, your new carer, the one you like.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Olivia Colman so perfectly captures a loving daughter hoping to help her father reach the mindset he himself was able to express not a day before. She smiles, she tells him what he thinks and feels, hoping that he will once again experience it himself, holding back what tears may come. The father, the patriarch, at his weaker moments comes to an obvious realization. When he believes the world is out to get him, to steal from him, he demands to be left alone, that he can care for himself. Only when he is faced with being alone after knowing his weakened state, it becomes something of a terrifying concept, especially with object permanence in question.
I'll look for your medication.
No, wait.
I'll be back. I'm just going to look for your medication.
She's outside the door.
Please don't leave me alone. I look at...
Okay, so I'll go pack up our things.
No, don't go.
I'll be back.
Don't leave me on my own, please.
I'll be in the next room. I'll be right back.
He wants to be strong. He doesn't want to be alone. I think the relationship between Anne and her father is astonishing in its presentation, from both a writing standpoint and in what these actors bring to the screen.
Have you heard from her? I'm asking you a question. Yeah, my other daughter. That's right. There's a resemblance, don't you think?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll get a jacket on you before she arrives.
And trousers.
She'll look after you well.
I like her.
Good.
What about your sister? Where is she?
Oh, Dad.
If you only knew how much I miss her.
I do too. I miss her too, Dad.
When you are constantly trying to account for your loved one and their weaknesses, engaging in what could be called baby talk, or doing things without their permission because they couldn't give it or forgot that they gave it in the first place, they can begin to resent you. Especially if these approaches have worked prior, but it feels like a new experience to them.
That's the one you like. Your little blue pill. Look, it's a pretty colour, isn't it? And then we'll go get dressed.
You see?
What?
Why are you speaking to me as if I'm retarded?
Me?
Yes. And we get dressed in your little blue pill.
This is something Anne likely dealt with for many years, trying to speak to her father as her father, but realizing that as time went on, he needed to be talked into different ideas, or to be talked into what he believes without having him realize he's forgotten something incredibly important. That, combined with the constant attempts to move him around and put in jeopardy his ability to live independently, leads him to mistrust his daughter.
I never asked her for anything. I don't know what she's cooking up against me, but she's cooking something up. Anyway, my daughter is very interested in it. The next stage will be to send me away. I don't know. Obviously, it'll be a much more efficient way of getting hold of my flat. You're leaving. When? I mean, my...
I've met someone.
You?
Yes.
You know, she's not very intelligent. This man she met not long ago, just after her divorce. Yeah. Has a very bad influence on her.
Dad?
What?
You're an engineer.
What do you know about it? I'm going to inherit from her, not the other way around. I don't know why we never really got on well together. Whereas her little sister, another story.
He's forgotten much of why he has such a conflict with Anne, but he's sure he has one. The feeling is strong, it's what he remembers. Meanwhile, the daughter who passed away is immortalized, considered a great, caring light in his life that if he could hold again would make everything better.
You've always been that way, a warrior, whereas your sister, yeah, all the same, she was always my favourite. She was a painter. Look, Pirouette. Isn't it beautiful, isn't it?
Anne clearly remembers a time where things weren't so broken, when the family was strong and warm. But she also peers into the mirror, just like her father, thinking on the time she's lost, on whether it's being remembered. When he's delivering his speech, his theory on the state of affairs, it's clear he's decided that Anne was trying to harm him. Despite having little context for the many elements of his life that seem out of place, he is sure that if you make her the villain, more things make sense than with any other explanation. This is all too common for people suffering with this disease, the paranoia. The desperation to find the one at fault that leads them to harming the people there to help. Olivia Colman is absolutely incredible in this moment, playing the daughter who realizes that her father, whom she's taken care of for years, believes her to be the one harming him, that everything she's done to support her father will earn her the memory of the lesser daughter. Despite that, even when stretched so thin, it's obvious they have a chemistry.
She never touches alcohol, never, not a drop.
True.
That's why she seems so,
So what?
sober. It's funny. I didn't know I knew how to tap dance. Did you?
No.
I mean, wake up, they don't even speak English.
It's also clear that there's something more complex going on.
What have you done to your hair? You're looking good.
Anthony saying that means a lot. It's reinforcing his position as a father. Unfortunately, its rarity dawns on her, which is so much harder to bear. She still loves him. She wants her father to be safe and happy.
He's forgotten. It's amazing.
Stop it.
As far as Anne is concerned, in spite of everything, to say his memory is falling apart in front of him is cruel. She will not allow it, showing her spirit is damaged, but it's still there.
You can't imagine how difficult it is sometimes. The other day, didn't even recognise me.
It's nothing but complex.
You are not listening to what I'm telling you. That girl stole my watch.
He shows a sensitive care for her, but upon realizing she knows where he might have kept his watch, which is something she would of course come to know when looking after him, he feels betrayed. Their relationship has been destroyed by this illness. She does everything she can to help while she waits for these loving moments to return. There is something so sweet about that hand on her shoulder. No matter what happens or what is said and done, he is her father, and he needs help. And it's not all misery. When they both discuss and understand a lost memory is to blame for confusion, they both laugh together.
Ah, hidden talents.
Apparently, yes.
I don't think there's a moment better suited to represent what's between them than a call to return home and help Anthony with his jumper.
Oh.
It's quiet and simple, yet represents the struggle with immense care. Something as commonplace as putting on a piece of clothing can be a nightmare, and as a father would have helped his child, there is an obligation to support your parent in return, in their time of need.
Anne.
What?
Thank you for everything.
He knows what she's done for him, and moments like this would absolutely make the sacrifice worthwhile. These people need help.
Little Daddy. That's what she used to call me, you know.
Little Daddy is okay.
He is still the father. His resentment for his family is derived from fear and pride. He has little idea that his daughter's approach and attitude is brought on from years and years of trying to account for his wandering mind. What she says or does in an attempt to help is often seen as either condescending, cruel, or devious. She is the bad guy. He remembers that consistent element, but he doesn't remember all of the foul things he says to her. He doesn't remember the pain he's already caused. His memory of his other daughter, Lucy, ends prior to her accident. She is encased in a memory. Perfect. Anne, however, costs her own relationship and standing with her father the more she tries to help, eventually leading to her move to Paris.
What about me? What about your sister? Where is she?
Oh, Dad.
This is the tragic end to a long and hard era of their relationship. We see Anthony's final act as a father, putting a caring hand to his daughter's face, wondering if he will ever see her again. She will send him postcards, keeping him as strong as she can in her memories while sparing him the knowledge of his other daughter's death. This grim path has only been chosen because the man that was her father, in a sense, is gone. The remaining pieces cannot resemble the man she knew, and the years it took to realize that only made it more painful to leave him. It's an incredibly daunting reality that many people have to face every day. They aren't the only characters, however. Paul, Bill, or more accurately James, is a man portrayed to be quite frustrated with Anthony, unwilling to take his illness seriously, even claiming that it might all be a sham. We are shown he will not attempt to engage with Anthony if he's forgotten his place. Instead, he will demand Anne return home. Every time he is to deal with Anthony, he begins taking a drink, no matter the timeline, no matter the face. It's very likely they have a complicated history, or he simply cannot bear Anthony's situation. He is the one to push for the institution, as well as abuse Anthony with a disturbing sense of satisfaction. These people not only exist, they occupy a disturbing number of the population when attempting to understand people with these issues. In a sense, he is similar to Anthony in his assumption that all of this can't be real. However, his assumption that Anthony needs to give it up and stop ruining everyone's lives is as cold as it sounds. It would appear that James and Anne eventually divorced. Whether for a general unrest or the abuse, his attitude only exacerbated the situation, something that's important to include in a story like this. The fact is, Anthony wants to be safe, secure, to be free to enjoy life as he's always known it. During many points of pressure in the story, he will return to his bedroom window to enjoy the world below. The view remains in each of the locations a welcoming relief, until it alters to that of a bustling set of trees, reflecting the sunshine and flowing in the wind, as if to say that was the window throughout the story, a chance to once again realize the world is still turning, life goes on, everything is okay.
Everything is fine, Anne. Yeah. World is turning.
Something Anthony takes great value in having reassured to him.
You're going to feel all right in a minute, I promise you. Everything will be all right.
Which leads me to say once again, the acting is phenomenal in this film, from everyone involved.
I'm not completely... You agree? Of course you agree. Do you know what's happening? I've no way to put my head down anymore.
An Oscar-worthy performance is how I would describe Anthony Hopkins' achievement in this film.
I'd be so happy if she came to see me. I'd take her in my arms and we'd be glued to one another for hours on end like we used to be. Ah, yes, I've seen the signs. But let me be absolutely clear. I am not leaving my flat!
He manages to portray so many states of mind, so many emotional turmoils that require a steady, deft understanding to properly portray.
I bought it more than 30 years ago. Can you imagine? You weren't even born. And I've been very happy here. Oh, I see.
Have you looked in your cupboard?
I've just come from there. It's not there. Must have lost it somewhere, or else it's been stolen.
No, it hasn't.
What do you mean, no, it hasn't? Must be a difficult job, though, isn't it? I mean, spending all day with one of those... Ugh, I mean, I couldn't stand it. Am I right?
He can reach a rage or a quiet whimper to then deliver a confusion so convincingly within moments of each other.
I left my watch somewhere in the open, too.
Where? Where did you leave it?
I don't know and I don't remember. Worked in the circus a bit when I was young. Would you like me to show you some magic? Yeah.
Anthony, She's been worried about you, you know, and it really upsets her.
He shows a face that is thoroughly emotive, presenting his thought process and his desire to be known as a man who does indeed understand what's happening. But I wouldn't want that to take away from his co-star, skillfully presenting a daughter desperate to save the loving relationship she had with her father despite the pain invited along with it. In each scene she is present, there are so many quick looks, thorough expressions and frustrations to help us understand exactly how she feels about each slight and pain present throughout the story.
Haven't we met before?
No, I don't think so.
Are you sure? I have a distinct impression that I've seen you before.
You'll have to get used to it.
But I can't manage to.
I think you can. I think you're managing really well.
Please hold the line while we try to connect you.
Dad.
Anne, you're going to have to what? Outlive you. I don't know about you, but my daughter, yes.
Much of her acting is universally understandable yet quintessentially British in nature, and she's an utter joy to appreciate.
I must say he's charming.
Yeah. Not always.
The father is a fantastic example of a talented scriptwriter tapping into the unique elements found in the medium of film so as to elevate the story being told. It is paced to deliver the grim reality of a disease ravaging over time while making thorough use of set designs, costumes, actors' abilities, the soundtrack, the editing, the lighting, and the composition to bring us what is an incredible script filled with what can only be described as very authentic, detailed dialogue looking to build relationships, histories, attitudes, and subtleties in moments.
Yeah, he's had several carers. He finds it difficult to get on with them. He has his ways.
Do you intend to go on ruining your daughter's life, or is it too much to hope you might behave reasonably?
What's he talking about, Ed?
About you, Anthony. Huh? About you.
Anthony's mind is being removed of its memories one by one. He is losing his leaves. At the same time, his once very lived-in and detailed flat becomes more and more sterile and bare as we understand his daughter is packing up to leave for Paris, the text and subtext operating in a tragic harmony. Anthony is never actually seen outside. He only ever looks at the world through a window. He is constantly surrounded by enclosed spaces, forcing him to view the busy living world at a distance. Freedom, for those with this disease, is significantly reduced. They often feel trapped within their own mind. Anthony's inability to recant even the smallest of details, along with many names and places in earlier scenes, is tolerated by the audience as his account of the world mostly matches ours. Only as the story progresses and his lucidity reaches a peak, a truth comes to the surface.
There's something funny going on. Believe me, Anne, there's something funny going on.
I think you're mixing things up, Anthony.
The one who reminds me of Lucy.
Right.
Right.
His disease has given him such a strong sense of distrust to the world that only his version of events is ever trusted. But he is told a story by the nurse that can match many elements of what he's seen and heard, though he doesn't begin to believe it until James comes in. Or rather, Paul. Or rather, Bill.
Everything all right?
Yes.
Bill and the nurse are people he knows to be others, but if they are nursing home workers, that can explain why he saw them in his flat, which means he might be here. Anne might be gone. He doesn't remember any of it properly, and what he does remember he cannot trust.
Do you know her?
Who?
My mother. She...
No.
Oh. She has such big eyes.
I think this moment breaks my heart again and again because it's clear he doesn't remember anything specific anymore, beyond the sight of his mother's eyes. But he doesn't want to reveal it. He wants to retain those last fading pieces of dignity. He's already revealed his loss of knowledge on Bill.
Who just left?
That's Bill.
Bill?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Prior to this final scene, Anthony was able to piece together his reality because he would often only be missing one name, one place, or one time of day. Now he has very few details, and unfortunately he doesn't remember the nurse's name. If he should know Bill, that means he should know her too, and so he apologizes.
Sorry to ask this, but, I mean, who are you? Exactly.
I'm Catherine.
But knowing he's in a care home, knowing he's in his room, knowing Catherine and Bill's names doesn't help. And it doesn't help because he's lost something far more fundamental.
Who exactly am I?
It's commonly talked about that when you reach a certain age, it's akin to reaching a second childhood. Only, with a disease such as this, memories can be torn from you to the point of your childhood being the most potent experience you have left. The memory of a safe and warm mother protecting you from the world becoming your primary interest. He wants it all back.
My mother. She has such big eyes. I can see her face now. I hope she'll come and see me sometime.
It would only make sense that his memories are still meshed together, for him to now believe his mother may visit him in the care home, only to be told his daughter can, and the reminder from the nurse's clarification brings him lucidity, taking us to his breaking point.
Your daughter?
No. Mummy, I want to get out of here. I feel as if I'm losing all my leaves. The branches and the wind and the rain.
To share that he remembers his mother's eyes and wants her to take him home. To be without anything that binds him in this world. It's a man in a pure, torturous spiral, and there's nothing anyone can do to help him back to his familiar world. It's nobody's fault. Any attempt one can make to account for the lack of memory would fade the moment you finish constructing it, meaning your attitude and approach can't necessarily adapt to this nightmare, ever. Or even worse, they have a perpetual realization of not only this illness, but of those traumatic events in their history as well as what it means for their family to endure this. At the end of the story, his bedroom, being one of the most consistent elements, is now not in his flat or his daughter's, but at the home he doesn't remember arriving in at all. He's lost his leaves, he's unsure of what's happening. He remembers his mother, and his watch is on for the journey.
Don't know if I'd be ready to...
The first thing that's incredibly important for those suffering with memory loss is routine.
First, we'll get dressed, shall we?
Yes.
And then we'll go for a walk in the park, shall we?
Routine, a reliable footing providing a foundation, as well as a strict adherence to prescribed medication.
What is the time?
It's time for your medication.
Look, I brought you your medication.
Are you taking your medication?
You take your medication? Have you taken your medication?
What's that got to do with anything?
Have you had your pills?
Yes! Time to take our medication. Not time by the minute, is it?
Then we do what we can until we go, because it's the wonderful opportunity we have.
We have to take that chance. Because it never lasts long when the weather's this good, does it?
Living is quite the gift. We do everything we can to take advantage of the opportunity whenever it comes by, whether it can be remembered or not. It's a cycle. We inevitably return to our initial stage, desperate for help to simply exist, before we are ultimately gone. The film ends with full, healthy trees, every leaf blowing in the wind, active and wonderful, far-stretching and ever enjoyed as a lifetime, with the sound of the world fading away and a cut to black, fully encapsulating everything this story has to say. This film, this experience is everywhere. It's horrifying. It leaves both the sufferer and the family members helpless. It doesn't end their life with something understandable. It takes what they use to understand the world around them and alters it, day by day. until you are unable to function and you are watched as it happens. People will curse themselves for thinking of an escape, to end their loved one's life, hoping it might bring them both peace. Many are brought very low. The misery is extensive, and you wait for any sense of lucidity to remind you they are still the person you love, as you are theirs. I would never be able to address everything in this production. It's not something I could fully discover, and they achieved so much. It's an incredibly respectful piece of storytelling and a thoroughly meaningful representation of a foul and complicated disease, coupled with a message for everyone to appreciate regardless of suffering from it directly, as eventually we will all need help.
You'll see when you get to my age it will happen sooner than you think.
Memory crafts who we are. The painting is the memory of Lucy, and even that eventually fades. The struggle is a horrifying ignorance spiraling the brain out of control, providing just a few pieces of familiar sights, sounds, and smells to keep you on this plane, leaving him as that of a child lost in the world. Which means you do what you can, just as a child sees the world filled with potential, entertained by the trees brushing by or a bag flying through the wind. We, at any point in our lives, can remember what that's like, as Anthony does here. It's a desire to play, to live. There is no shame in taking peace, comfort, and enjoyment in the simplest of pleasures. Have them as much as you can. This film uses the techniques of the medium to have you experience what it could be like to suffer with an illness that takes away what makes you yourself and offers something of a reprieve before the story ends. A message on what life has to offer, even in the darkest of times. It's absolutely tragic, unabashedly raw, gracefully real, and incredibly sweet. I fully recommend it.
It'll be all right.
Do you think?